that close to getting the number one again?
I was almost going to be like, oh, is this really about to happen? Are we about to get the number one pick? And I'm just not going to get any sleep all week. Coach Pop's stepping away, and now stepping right back into the spot right here.
We get to the top 5, and to even know that the Spurs were still in it at that point. And then I saw the Charlotte Hornets guy's face when they didn't get it.
They're used to that.
He was
the
mad.
Hornets guys. That's like, this is just another May for the Hornets guys. I mean, they're always, they never get one. They're just always between like 3 and like 7. But if I were a fan of another team and I didn't live in San Antonio, I would be like, what kind of voodoo magic do they have working in San Antonio? Because every single time when they're not winning championships or when there's, a marquee player up for grabs, these picks always seem to land in San Antonio's favor.
It's incredible. Well, welcome to Raining Threes. I did go with an old school KENS 5 shirt because I did a tour today.
That's
I wanted to go because I know
had nice gear.
you got a Fonzie shirt going, which looks good too.
Me?
But we did have very nice gear back in the day. This is a nice
awesome
polo.
You have like that nice denim shirt. It's like an oversized
That's an old
denim
school
shirt.
one?
They would sell that for like $40 at the Gap, I feel like, that denim shirt. Like that is a
really
nice.
And it stood the test of time. That's from 1999.
Yeah, I would. That's a shirt that like I want to wear. Like
Yeah.
I'm asking around. Like all of our stuff now, no disrespect to our current branding, but all the logos are so small.
They're smaller.
Let's just get maybe throw some trucker
This was
hats
nice
in
and
there or
big. It
something.
even has a little plaid on the collar. You know who has all the KENS 5
All
gear?
of it. It's OG KENS 5 gear. The proprietor, she came before the gear, I feel like.
Yeah, that's good. Absolutely.
She defines the gear. The gear doesn't define her.
Exactly. We could not have a more special guest on this Raining Threes than the great Deborah Knapp, ladies
queen
and
herself.
gentlemen. Come on. Deborah, this is so awesome that you're coming to sit on the couch and join us for Raining Threes.
How
today.
fun. I'm with the cool guys. I'm with the cool
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Wore my favorite color, green. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, we had to have you on about the end of an incredible era in journalism. And I'm trying to land on the exact number. How many years altogether now? Because
48
48 in the business.
in the business.
And
38 here.
38 of those were here. Wow.
Yeah.
Is it hard to even believe it when
It's
you say
hard
it?
to believe. I mean, it's, as you know, I walked across the stage and got my diploma and went to work that night in television. And that's all I've done for 48 years. And so I've been thinking, I have a friend who retired recently. She said, make plans for that first week. Don't go into that first week with nothing to do. So I'm not really that worried about that, but it is kind of hard to think about.
Have you made the plans? The plans are already set?
I haven't done it. I've got a week left, so
Right. You haven't
to
made.
think about it. Yes.
I know you were talking to a recent retiree, and they said, well, we get together for a good breakfast and coffee, and then we all watch The Price is Right.
Uh-huh.
And you were like,
Don't do that. Please don't. Yeah.
Not yet. You're not ready for that
not
kind of
yet.
retirement yet.
No. It'll be KENS 5 I'll be watching.
Make it like
but,
HBO or something. Really
Yeah,
risque,
right.
you know?
Real masterpiece, right? Come on. But I do know you do have plans to go across the world.
I do.
And spend some time with some very special people.
Yes. I mean, I haven't plotted like the first week I retire, but I am the first month going to be going to see my daughter and grandchildren. They're in Hong Kong, but they're going to be on the East Coast. So we're going to do that. And then we'll see from there,
Have you started to plot your words that you'll deliver to your audience for the final time? Have you
this is
started to think
big,
about that at
yeah.
all?
I have thought about it. But I'm better writing like closer to,
The moment.
I'm a deadline person.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Right. But no, I have given that a lot of
Isn't
thought.
that fascinating about journalism? Like if you give us, 5 hours to do it or 20 minutes, we will take up that entire time to do it.
Right.
You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
Isn't
and
it
I feel
weird?
I'm better in that 20 minutes than I am, in the 5 hours.
With too much time.
Yeah.
But it's got to be something weighing on your mind and your heart.
Yeah, it is.
Because I know
Yes, it
you
is.
all
Yeah.
so well that you want it to be so perfect.
I do.
And I
do.
know you
So
will.
that's-
It will
Well,
Because nobody more heartfelt than Deborah Knapp. I
Well,
mean, honestly.
I remember my first week. I mean, I've only been here a little over 3 years, but when I flew out here for my interview, our news director, Jack Acosta, flew me out. I was 26 years old, rolling in. I'd never really spent much time in San Antonio. Came into the newsroom, picked me up at the airport, and I'd never met Jack in person. and I didn't even really spend much time with him, but he brought me into the newsroom, and the first thing he did, he dropped me right off at Deborah's cubicle, and yeah, he said, "Listen, before you talk to anybody else in the newsroom, this is the first person you're talking to."
I don't
even
know this
talk to
story.
him, no, I'd never met you.
Yeah.
But you came a little bit later. I'm like,
Keep all the candidates away from me.
Who the heck is this guy? But no, I sat down with Deb, and yeah, I mean that was the very first. I don't know if you remember. Any
I
of
do.
the
You were
interaction.
fantastic. Jack goes, I want you to meet this guy. We're thinking about him for sports, and let me know what you think. And he's boom, boom, boom. You know, you're full of energy. And will Wimby get more playing time, Nate? And what are you wearing? What is that jacket?
We got to get a little festive here, Deb. Come on now. This is the sports anchor special out here. It's Spurs basketball once again at the Frost Bank Center.
And did you
And
kind of
speaking
interview him, or
Spanish?
did you just get to know him?
I just got to know him.
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
nervous for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to be asking sports questions, you know. I remember once I said to a weatherman, well, you're batting 100. That's the last sports analogy I ever used. He's like, I'd rather be batting 1,000. I said, whoops. I thought 100 was good.
I
But,
thought that was really good, actually. Yeah.
But it just goes to show in our own shop here the amount of respect that we all have for you, Deb.
thank you.
And
Thank you,
I mean, really, like you set the standard for everybody, all the journalists in this room, and you know that was the first person that I sat down with, and I immediately too. For me, that gave me a sense of comfort, and it relaxed me a little bit. You know, getting to speak with the people here, and again, this is just me. You
Same
have sat
story.
next to
That's
Deb
what's
for
amazing.
29 years.
But 29 years ago, I'm like 26 years old in the KENS 5 newsroom.
I mean, it's incredible. Spurs are gonna make it, man. I was with them all the way. I said my Spurs are gonna make it because I love my Spurs. Wow! Peter Holt, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Holt. He's proud of his Spurs tonight. Chairperson, how are you? Fine. It's good to see you guys. That's very nice. So you're gonna go to the celebration?
Okay, Bill Taylor live at Foley's. I love the fan he talked to. He said, we're going to just keep fighting. Someone needs to tell her we won.
First couple of days, and I can't figure out the news system. I'm like, I'm having trouble. And Deborah Knapp sits down next to me and says, well, I'll show you. And I'm like, you're Deborah Knapp. And Deborah Knapp, you're so pretty and beautiful. And so I was just, I was tripping because I'm a kid and I knew this was one of the main anchors sitting down next to me and not just showing me, but you stayed with me at that desk until I understood. Now, do you get it? And I'm like, well, I think, well, then try it. You know, and you waited until and it was a good 20 minutes. And I just couldn't believe that one of the main anchors did this. It wasn't a producer, another reporter, a photographer. No, Deborah Knapp Bonilla sat down and did it.
Aw.
And what's neat is you'll see the piece with our current team, current reporters who are now the 20-year-olds in the newsroom, and they all echo what we just said.
Oh, well, we have a fabulous newsroom. You know, in this business, you go through times that are just magical.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deborah Knapp. At this moment, President Jimmy Carter is on his way to San Antonio, and it is here that he is coming to the Brooke Army Medical Center at Fort Sam Houston.
Yeah, there are tough times and struggles and lots of good times, but then there's some times that are just magical. You know, and we're in a magical time right now. Our newsroom has all these committed journalists. You guys, what a great team, great management. It's just, you know, I've learned to say thank you when you have moments like that. You know, I think the first time years ago it happened, I didn't, went through months of just great things, you know, great rapport, everything clicking. But then you learn that that's a real blessing.
It's so special because of all the personalities in the newsroom.
Right.
Right? I mean, you've got all these type A's, everybody competing for spotlight, all these attention getters. You know, I could never be a news director. I could never manage that room. There's no way.
Yeah, but did you ever have a moment that we just talked about, obviously, because you provided that for us, that sort of sense of guidance and immediate comfort of coming into a newsroom for a first time? Did you ever have that with somebody else when you were in sort of our shoes when you first came into KENS?
I did. My very first job was at the competition, and the anchorman there, Don Colson, would walk into the audio booth with me, and he said, look, you make a list, and you don't say, I want eggs, milk, cereal. You say eggs, milk. So this is how you do your delivery. And so he worked with me, and then there was another anchor who helped me. You know, I had worked on the newspaper at UT, and I said, I'm going to write the story. He goes, what are your pictures? I said, I'll think about that later. He goes, no, you don't write a word without the picture in mind. And I mean, I still tell people that to this day when I'm working with reporters who've been in the business longer. But I'm like, what are your pictures?
That's good.
You can't write a word unless you have that picture in your mind. So I was really fortunate. And then when I came here 1 year later, and I worked with Fred Lozano, who really helped me with anchoring, and Chris Maru. They were just great mentors.
Phenomenal journalists.
Yes, right.
Right?
Right,
I mean,
amazing.
Fred took it so seriously. Chris read 4 to 5 newspapers before he walked in this building every day.
He was amazing. You could just say, just ad-lib the last time an engine fell off a plane. And he just right there on the fly be able to tell you that.
Here's Deborah to tell us about it.
Chris, this involves one of the most frightening concerns of parents, guns in the hands of children.
You know, and you saw it all. As far as the evolution of this business, you can remember the days of going out and shooting on film.
On film. We had film. We had live trucks, but we still had film. We had a film processing place here at the station, and you go out and you shoot your film, and then you have to wait 2 hours for that film to develop, and then you watch it like this, and then splice it together, and and now you've got your phone, and you can shoot the whole story and immediately go on the air. Just to see that difference. And I'm really in awe of, people your age and our reporters who can do it all, because I have never had to shoot my own video, edit my own video. I always had a photographer with me, and we'd come back to the station. I'd write my stories. I mean, I had to research it and set up the interviews, do the interviews, write the story. But then I handed it off to the photographer who'd shot the whole story, and he or she then would put it all together. And then you go to a graphics person who puts the graphics. But today, we have our reporters go out and shoot their own stories, write them, edit them, and put the graphics in.
The entire
They do
process.
the entire,
it's
right.
incredible.
And I don't mean this to say to any knock on how we do things now, but obviously we've got cameras controlled by, computers. There's so many things where, you can send things from a computer straight to screen and it happens so quickly. It did feel like that probably when you started too, Bill, but when you were first starting out in journalism, putting on a primetime evening newscast probably felt more like a production probably than it does now, I'd say, in a way. But it was more, there was more grandeur to it, I feel like, of everything that led into it. Am I phrasing this the right way?
We had a lot more people working on it, for sure.
Yeah.
And it was appointment TV.
Exactly. That's what I meant. I mean,
right.
just because there was no social media, people were finding out information
6 o'clock
for the
news.
first time.
Right.
Yeah.
They would tune in, and there were 3 networks and PBS. So you had 4 options to watch television news. And, we would edit the tapes, and then they'd be running down the hallway. You remember this.
absolutely.
This is for the 5. This is for the 5. Everybody flattened themselves against the wall, as they ran by to jam it in the machine.
One tape.
Yes, right. And now you just sit at your desk, you get it done, it's sent. you know.
Once it's on the cloud, everybody has access to it from all views and from all spaces. Talk to this, the art of journalism, which of course is what drove your passion. It was always like when we both started, you were the only one who went. You were the one who was there, and you got to describe what it was like to be there, to see it in person, to feel it, taste it, smell it, and then, put together an artistic view of that and bring someone there through your writing, through your pictures. And now it's like a difference in the sense where we just go live and we're all there together, and the reporter, it could be the standoff or the big fire, and we're live on digital, then we're live on KENS, and instead of that, go to it, see it, experience it, come back and craft this piece that brings people there.
Police officer has just been shot. The suspect is holed up in a house just a few houses down here. In the mood here, jubilant. Kruger is due to arrive here any minute. He is in Austin, and they're expecting him here at any time. The tremendous concern and grief we've seen here over the past week is replaced today with a very different kind of mood.
Do you think there's been a loss in that art?
Well, I
because
do
of
think
technology?
live, and I say that to reporters when I'm working with them. I said, when you're out there live, make me feel it. Put me there. What does it smell like? What does it feel like? What are you experiencing? Let me know all of that. Put me there. So I think reporters are still doing that with live shots, even though it's, you don't have as much time to think about and craft, your perfect words and perfect sentences. But they do a really great job of conveying that.
Talk about what it feels like. Tell the story about this fire. She was covering a fire one time, right?
Yes.
Famous video that, and you got a little too close to the action.
I did get too close to the action. I got as close as I could to the fire, which I'd always get as close to the action as I possibly could.
You want to do that.
Spectacular fire I have ever seen. It is this 2-story house here, up full bloom, in flames. 4 units are out here battling this now. The power lines above are exploding. They're falling down. The heat is so intense here. The firefighters have warned me to stay away because my nylons may melt.
And actually, as an aside, there was a shooting, and it was late at night, and it was the 10 o'clock news, and we were moving along the cars, and I'm here, and this cop goes, "Lady, if you want to be live at 10, get down. Get down." I was too close to the action. I was like, whoa. But so at the fire, I went right up as close as I could, and the firefighter said, "Ma'am, you're going to get too close. You're going to melt your stockings. Your nylons are going to melt." We all wore pantyhose back then. And so I went live, and all of a sudden, my legs were on fire. I mean, the backs of my legs, it was so hot. The flames are all behind me.
We are the closest news team to this fire at this point. The wires here are falling down, exploding. We've had to move twice. I'm having to move right now. It is so hot. They have not been able to bring this under control. We don't know whether it is a apartment house at this point, whether anyone was in it. I'm too hot to talk.
And I started kind of scooting away, and it actually singed, not my eyebrows, but the photographer's eyebrows. And he was like, they're like curled up. I was like, oh
Wow.
my gosh, it was so hot. And so I finally had to just say, and I was moving, and finally I said, I have to go, I'm too hot to talk. And I just ran off camera. My legs were burning.
Too hot to talk.
Deborah, what was your first kind of marquee story? A story that, as journalists, you all remember the biggest kind of stories, right? The stories that has the entire city's attention. What was your first kind of, in your mind, your checkpoint first story that really resonated with you and has stuck with you forever?
Well, I think right when I was beginning, I covered a meeting with General McDermott, who was the CEO of USAA, and he helped keep the Spurs in San Antonio. I mean, he just did so much for this city. But he was confronted. He was trying to bring in a company, and Cops and Metro Alliance were there. 2 activist groups that just have done remarkable things for the west side and south side of San Antonio and east side. Getting roads paved, services out to all those areas in the 60s and 70s when it was really needed. So this is the 70s. But but their tactics were very confrontational. And so it was a big auditorium, and General McDermott was on the stage, and they asked him a question about high-paying jobs, and he started to answer, and they all started yelling, "Answer yes or no, answer yes or no," and they wouldn't let him answer. And so afterwards, I went backstage. I got an interview with him, and I did the story. And he told me years later that he always remembered because I was the only reporter that went back to get his side of the story, which is amazing to me, really, because I was just a rookie. I was a baby reporter. So that one I remember. And then early in my career, we had the Fiesta Sniper, and that was a national story when the sniper opened fire and killed 2 people and sent more than a dozen to the hospital.
That was during the Battle of Flowers
Battle
parade.
of Flowers.
I was just telling that story on the tour.
What year was that again?
79.
And there's a famous picture when Gary DeLon was on the air live and the shootings were still occurring.
Yes.
The gunfire, you could hear it, and he's ducking behind car doors, and
He was live.
television
KENS was
on
taking it
KENS.
live.
Yeah.
Because we were broadcasting the parade, and he was at the beginning of the parade route, which is where the shooting started. I was further down the parade route, and we were waiting for the parade, but Gary was right there. And then they all went for cover, and the shots were being fired, and a policeman came up to me on the parade route, and he goes, "I hope, recognize me, Miss Knapp. I hope I'm mistaken, but I heard there's a shooting at the beginning of the parade." So I just grabbed our cameraman and we ran down there. People were
You went towards the center.
Yes, towards the story, and people were saying, "What's going on? Where's the parade?" And then we went with police as they told everybody, "Go home. There's not going to be a parade." So that was that was quite an experience.
You know, one of the other big ones you always bring up, the Pope visit. What was it like to cover the Pope's visit to San Antonio?
Well, it was amazing. I was raised Catholic. I'm a practicing Catholic, and have Pope John Paul II come to San Antonio, and we had 300,000 people out at Westover Hills, where SeaWorld is now, but it was undeveloped land back then in 1987, and there was a holiness about him. There was a holiness about him, and just to be there, it was such a hot day. But all those people just waited in the sun, 300,000 people to see the Pope. And just to experience that with the city was just remarkable. And then I got to see him a few more times. I went to Mexico when he beatified Juan Diego. And that was amazing too. He just went by me in the Pope mobile, but you just got a holy sense with him there. And then I was blessed to cover his funeral. And that was amazing.
This ancient city is preparing for something it's never seen in its centuries of existence. Up to 4 million people pouring into here for the Pontiff's funeral on Friday.
Amazing experience.
Do you think Pope Leo's going to visit San Antonio? Or is it a long shot?
Probably it's a long shot.
Yeah.
Probably it's a long shot.
Maybe
But that would be
Texas,
wonderful.
the state of Texas, I would
At least,
think.
we gotta have an American Pope visit the States at some point.
Oh, yes, he'll visit the States. We have a huge Catholic population. You never know.
Nate, the first thing Nate said was, us Catholics from Chicago, the pressure's now on.
man. Oh, you're from Chicago and you're Catholic. You must be really religious. Yeah. I am.
We were broadcasting the Pope live, and I was Chris and I were filling, and he asked me, which is the worst question, the most terrifying question I've ever been asked in my whole career. But he said, "Deborah, you're Catholic." And I was like, explain Vatican II. I just didn't know what he was going to ask me. He said, "You must be really excited to see the Pope." I was like, yes.
So before television news, Deborah, you had a shot at a movie career. And this is really something else. You were in a movie with Robert Redford. Do you know that?
I remember the story. Yeah, I don't know the details though, so you got to fill me in.
This is
on
a
that.
great story about going to see Robert Redford, who was in Texas.
He was I was at UT my freshman year, and he was in San Marcos filming The Great Waldo Pepper. And my roommate came in, and we'd all gone to see The Way We Were that weekend. So we're all madly in love with Robert Redford. And she came in, she goes, "Y'all, I just found out Robert Redford is in San Marcos." We all swooned, and well, we have to go get his autograph. And so we jump in the car, we go down the next morning and drove around, and we found out he was at the movie people were working out of the Holiday Inn. We went there and asked, could we get Robert Redford's autograph? And they said, "No, you've missed him. He's out filming." And then the casting director, though, asked me, "But do you have any acting experience?" And I said, "No." And my college roommate, who's so effervescent, she goes, "Yes, she can act. She can act."
She's good.
What are you talking about? Yeah.
Me? No,
No, you can. You remember?
So then I did go and audition, and amazingly got the part. And it was just a very small part. It started with a love scene. And so my mother went to meet with the director. She said, I want you to explain what's going on here. She said,
Wow.
"No, you just run into his arms and it fades to black."
Deborah, this wasn't an extra part. This sounds as if this was
Yeah, we've got her mom on the set.
IMDb. Yeah, here we go.
But then they cut the love scene because they thought he looked like too much of a cad to fly into this farm, seduce the farmer's daughter, which is my role.
You were the
and then
farmer's
leave.
daughter.
That was you?
I was the
Oh my gosh.
So in the dinner scene, which he's playing the whole scene to me to set up this love scene. But anyway, then he just took off. So, but I really didn't. He said, "I guess now," Robert Redford said, "I guess now you want to be a movie star." I said, "No, I want to be a reporter."
You told him that.
I did tell him that.
Nice.
Yeah, because then you turned down a role.
I did.
Who gets to turn down Steven Spielberg?
Certainly
Deborah
not
Knapp does.
Deborah Knapp does. Yeah.
Well, we didn't know who Steven Spielberg was in 1974. I guess this is 1974. But the casting director told me, we stayed in touch, and I did some auditions, and I thought about doing acting, but I really wanted to stay in reporting. And she said, I've got a role for you. But you'll have to take off your clothes, but you only see yourself from behind running down the beach. I went, no, I'm not going to take off my clothes. I'm not going to be. And she said, then you get eaten by a shark. And I said, well, and she said, but you'll be working with the great Steven Spielberg, and he's going to be great. Remember that name. And I just said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking off my clothes. I'm not. And I stayed in journalism.
Turned down
That was Jaws?
That was
Yeah,
Jaws.
Jaws.
Wow.
Turned down Jaws. The opening scene. Wow. And you know, with going into journalism, obviously an incredible television career that you really made a choice on San Antonio. I mean, this was a career you could have taken to any major market.
Anywhere.
You were with Kenny Linder, who's one of the top agents in the business, but you really decided on San Antonio.
Oh, I'm so blessed to have been able to spend my career here. I started here. I went to work for CBS in Philadelphia for 6 years. But after my daughter was born, I thought, I miss San Antonio. I miss the people I worked with there. And Bob Rogers said, well, you just come back. You come home. You just come back here. My agent wasn't happy about that because he had a different trajectory in mind for me. And he'd been talking to the network and New York. But I just thought, no, I want to be here with my family, be part of a community. Because at a network level, I mean, you're traveling, you're doing all kinds of things. So I came back here. It was wonderful. It was a perfect choice.
Because you really are, it's a fork in the road of where you want to go with this career, right?
Yes.
You want to give up your life for this industry,
Right.
or do you want to have a life and be in the industry, kind of?
Perfect. That's exactly, and that's the choice you've made. It's the choice you've made.
And he
too
wrote
soon to say for you,
Too soon to
Nate.
say for this guy. I think this guy's going to be gone.
I don't think so, man. That's
You've certainly got a bright future.
It-
so whatever you
it's
wanna
not
do.
about talking about me, man. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner yet tonight. Man. I'll tell you though, but I love watching all the archive tapes of you guys too, and just I can't wait to see the special that's coming out with you guys. I mean, just because you've told me that
Oh, it's so good.
I saw both you guys after you walked out of the room, and you could see the emotions on both
It
of you
was
guys.
it was a drain.
It was. It
Right?
was draining. I
It
mean,
was a
I
drain.
just
It was like-
I didn't know how I was going to get through the rest of the day.
Deborah, last
for that.
last question I'll ask you is if you have advice to any young person that wants to get into journalism, what is it?
Well, I think, we see influencers and we see so many people that are interested in social media. Be interested in the journalism. Be interested in, uncovering things, digging deep, asking the right questions. It's not about you. It's not about watch me on TV. It's really about telling stories, making, informing people, helping to make people's lives better. I mean, that should be your goal.
There it is. That's coming from the best right there.
Absolutely. Deborah Knapp, KENS 5 is KENS 5 because of you.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah, and
thank you.
Thank you.
For
Thank
all
you.
you've done. The wave, guys like us get to continue riding
Oh.
because of the foundation of the wave. Incredible career.
Well, thank you,
I know
Bill.
you're
And
proud.
I'll be watching.
I know. You can call it with story ideas.
I
Only
will.
if
I'll
you've got
follow
nothing
the story.
else going on, Deborah, because it's the same
No
deal
Price
for
is
us.
Right, but KENS
Yeah.
5 News.
Exactly. Well, get ready. It is going to be May 21, the final newscast. It's going to be something special. I know you're going to be so ready for it. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I have mixed feelings about it, but I am ready. It's time. I don't like to think about it.